Welcome to the September edition and the first episode of the Great Northern Pagan Podcast. I'm Grant Ridgeway. I am co-organizer of the LAPC, or the Lake Agassiz Pagan Community, and we are in the studio today with
Thomas Punton, 12 years in the making.
Phenomenal. Who's also going to be, DJing this with me. And we are also with
Cleo Wardwell. I am part of the FMUU Pagans.
Welcome, Cleo. It's nice to have you. So, the Great Northern Pagan Podcast, I would say, was a brainchild that started with, between the LAPC and you guys with the FMUU?
Yeah. Soon to be hopefully Cup someday.
Absolutely. And the FMUU stands for what? Just so everybody listening knows what we're talking about.
The Fargo-Moorhead Unitarian Universalists.
Oh, gotcha. A good bunch of people.
Good bunch of people, yeah.
Very awesome.
So, I guess I'll start with going what I deem that what we're trying to do with this podcast, other than scream into a microphone in your house, is this podcast I feel is for, to have a voice out there for the Lake Agassiz Basin region, because I have found in my experience that there's a lot of pagans in this area, but there really isn't a representation for them. There really isn't an outlet or another voice speaking in a positive manner for them. So I guess for me, you guys can add your own 2 cents when I'm done jabberjawing over here, is, I think that this podcast will have multiple things to it. It'll be a sounding board. It will be a place where we can talk about businesses that are pagan specific or pagan friendly. We can talk about the events that you guys with the FMU have going on, the Lake Agassiz Pagan Community, and whoever else is comfortable with us, putting their stuff on the internet. What do you guys, what is your take? What's the podcast to you?
Well, I think it's just kind of, in a sense, get our names out there. I think we've all have experience, where we've tried to get our pagan ducks in a row, in a sense. I think Sarah put it best once, that trying to get pagans organized is like training cats, in a sense. Herding cats, yes.
Absolutely. And what about you, Cleo?
A long time ago, I envisioned something like this. So the education point of view, I think originally I had thought something on the public access cable network with the same type of thing, but this would meet a much broader audience. And I think exactly what you said with getting events out there. If you have subjects that you want to talk on, say herbalism, and you can do a whole thing on that. And it's really a great way for a lot of people to access the knowledge of a lot of great people that you wouldn't necessarily get to talk to.
Absolutely. I agree. And, and there's a part of me that sits here and thinks that, when we talk about paganism, we know that traditionally paganism was passed down orally. So there's a part of me that feels kind of pumped that, we're kind of doing that with this podcast by, word of mouth and stuff like that. So I guess we can start, and, guys just talk over me, because I kind of like to hear myself talk at times, is, what is going to be in this episode specifically. I think we should mention some of our great businesses, such as Bridget's House and 12 Houses up in Grand Forks. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we'll have to talk with you guys about the FMUU, because I'm sure there's people that heard that and peeked up and went, oh, interesting, along with the Lake Agassiz Pagan Community. Anything else that you can think of that we might put on this one?
Well, I think also, since we're kind of the guests of themselves, I guess we should also tell a little bit of our backgrounds of how we formed into paganism ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that. As you guys can tell who are listening, this is the first run, so we're just kind of firing from the hip here and see how it goes. With that, unless you guys got anything else, we're going to leave you with some nice music by Gwydion Pendderwen. I think I said that right. Lord of the Dance. Some old school pagan goodies. Enjoy.
1, 2, 3, and... When she danced on the waters and the wind was her horn, the lady laughed and everything was born. When she met the sun and the light gave him birth, the Lord of the dance then appeared on the earth. Dance then wherever you may be, for I am the Lord of the dance, said he. I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. I danced in the morning when the world was begun. I danced in the moon and the stars and the sun. I was called from the darkness by the song of the earth. I joined in the singing and she gave me birth. Dance then wherever you may be, for I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. I dance at the Sabbath when you chant the spell. I dance and sing that everyone be well. When the dance is over, do not think I'm gone. You live in the music, so I still dance on. Dance then wherever you may be, for I am the Lord of the dance, said he. Lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. They cut me down, but I leap up high. I am the light that will never, never die. And I'll live in you if you live in me. I am the Lord of the dance, said he. Dance then wherever you may be, for I am the Lord of the dance, said he. And I'll lead you all wherever you may be, and I'll lead you all in the dance, said he.
All right. Again, that was Gwydion Pendderwen with Lord of the Dance. So I was thinking, ladies and gentlemen, that we should probably start with talking about some of the businesses which are either metaphysical, pagan, or pagan friendly, or just kind of in line with what most pagans practice. Unless you guys disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so far we have 4 businesses we're going to talk to you about today because we don't want to add too many because we don't want this to be an infomercial, for one, I would assume. And also, we don't want to piss anybody off in our first episode. At least if we can help it. Maybe when we get to 12 or something, we can piss people off.
Yeah, controversy goes in, yeah.
Well, then with that, I'm going to start to get these out in the open because, I think frequently I've met, what you say, whatever your guys' experiences are, that you meet pagans and they're always asking, well, I've been a pagan for this long, but there's no businesses in town other than, Hobby Lobby Fargo, or where do I go to get this? And it's kind of like best kept secrets. And so let's blow the shutters off this and let some light in, I think. You guys have anything to add before we start talking?
Well, I went on assignment last week. A couple months ago, there was a store in Jamestown, North Dakota, which is about, you would say, just like about an hour and a half from Fargo to the west. It's called Doorways 2. And it's like that, Doorways 2 with some trailing dots in it. And they're located on the main street in downtown Jamestown. Basically, they're invested a lot in the gems. They have some books. They have a couple pyramids and some healing, a lot of the healing stuff as well. They've been starting some service of classes, like some Reiki sentences. They have this nice open room, like the one up in 12 Houses has, which was mentioned here just shortly here. They also have a nice Buddhist altar there as well. They're open Tuesdays and Thursdays, although the lady that runs it, she said that she is planning to start opening on Wednesdays as well because they said the business has been booming there, which has been amazing.
Well, that's good news.
Very good news, yeah. I noticed they also had like the storefront next to them is completely empty, so they have an option to expand as well if they need to. But I've been following them on Facebook. You can find them on Facebook as well.
Is it just under Doorways 2 then? Or?
Yeah, Doorways 2, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically about it. I mean, the biggest thing that I've been noticing that they've been investing in is that they've had a lot of items that have been made by other people that she's been in contact with different parts of the country as well. There was... I happened to notice this one pendant she had that had like a pair of dice and a domino on that, and she said, "Well, that's nothing." There was this one pendant on there that had parts of a watch.
Oh, that's interesting.
Neat, yeah. I guess it's just simple symbolism that you can point your energy towards as well. I had bought this one incense from her this let's see, the Song of India incense smells very wonderful. Here,
Oh,
give it a scent.
well, that's a fairly good price. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
throw that out there, but for 20, it's not bad. So you've obviously been here recently, then.
Yeah.
This is the first I've heard of doorways too.
I had literally just found about it a couple months ago, even. So they are just getting off the ground, and they're already at a wonderful start.
So if you're out there listening, I would say, owner of Doorways 2, send us an email. We'd love to have you on. You can talk about your business, and I'm sure some of our listeners, and even hopefully we get some in Jamestown eventually,
Oh yeah.
would be interested in what you offer. And then you can throw up something that, says, hey, listen to the Great Northern Pagan podcast. So we can help each other out there.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna jump in then and talk about Bridget's house, which is in Park Rapids. Have you guys been there before?
It's been a while.
It's kind of, it's funny because I mention it to some people and they either have heard of it or they go there a lot. Which Bridget's house is run by 2 individuals. I go there quite often. I'm actually I've taken part in the shamanic apprenticeship that they offer with Jeannie. They offer lots of classes, stuff like introduction to shamanism, core shamanism, introduction to Celtic shamanism. She teaches Reiki level 1 through master. They have different yoga classes, drum making. Gosh, I could go on and on and on. I guess I should have gotten a list in front of me and to see what it is. But they sell the retail stuff that they have there usually are stones, different forms of divination from oracle decks, tarot decks, a nice selection of books. The one thing that I do kind of like about them is they try to change up their clothing by season, which they usually have sales going on. I know I just got their newsletter recently, and they have, I believe it was like 50% off their summer clothing. They're starting up something new where you can actually become a member of Bridget's House, and I think it was like $75 a year, and you get automatically 10% off in the store. And I think it was just consignment that you did, get that 10% off of.
What a deal!
Yeah, it's pretty good. How to find them? Gosh, I guess we should have looked up their address, but they're not hard. If you're coming in on, I believe, Highway 10 that goes through Park Rapids. It's like the second or third right, and they have an actual home with a big sign on it that says Bridget's House. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you have Google, so you could Google it. I don't know, is there anything else that you guys would like to add about Bridget's House that I might have missed?
I think that covers all the bases there.
Yeah, stop on in. I guess, to describe their store, that would be probably a mixture of like a new consciousness, earth-centered metaphysical store. I don't know if I'd go as far to say that they're pagan store, like Magus Books or something like that in Minneapolis, but see, we even threw that in there, like sponsorship. So stop by and check them out. That's all I got on Bridget's House for now. By the way, too, if you guys are listening, email us, tell us what you want us to say. Heck, come on in and scream into the microphone with us, and we'll do an interview of it. You can talk about what you got to offer, and hopefully, I would say in the future, we will be able to actually say what they have going on for the coming months. But I believe Bridget's House's website is bridgetshouse.com. You should maybe double check on that. Maybe we'll put a little thinger for these websites.
Yes.
But that's Bridget's House in Park Rapids. They're Monday through Friday, probably average hours. That's what I got on them.
I wanted to mention Red Dragon Healing Center, which is in Fargo, run by a pretty good friend of mine. It's at 14 Roberts Street. She does a lot of energy work. She does Reiki. They have guided meditation. I know sometimes she has drum circles. They do quite a lot of different things. She's heavily involved in 10 Billion Beats every September, so.
And 10 Billion Beats, I know I'm digressing here, but just so those who've never heard of that, what is that again?
10 Billion Beats is a worldwide event where everybody drums at the same time in the entire world. And it's drumming for peace.
And that happens in Fargo around September, right?
It's usually, the first one I went to was at Gooseberry. They had over 90 attendees last year. There was rain, so it was a little quiet up in Trollwood. They haven't decided on a venue yet, but I can certainly let Thomas know when and where
That'd be great.
because it's fabulous. I know.
I remember seeing the
Mhm.
pictures from last year. It looked like it was a wonderful output.
I somehow got into the drugging community.
I think we all have in one way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
I've always wanted to make it to that, but the
Mhm.
past, I've lived in Fargo now for 3 years, and I've worked every single time, and never gotten anybody to take it. But I think this year, I just am going to make sure that I make it to that because I've heard.
Yeah,
the
they've
turnout
been
is-
talking about it. I'll forward you the email,
That'd be great. Yeah.
and then
Okay.
we can.
And maybe we can throw, Thomas, maybe you can throw a link or something like that, or a little notation,
Of course.
and a little thinger probably below where you can.
Yeah,
this
where
podcast,
you can
so-
see the podcast. You should see like
Yeah.
a link down yonder.
And there's an event every year on Facebook as well, so you can look up 10 Billion Beats on Facebook.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Red Dragon Healing Center, what were some of the things you said your friend ran? What are some of the things they offer?
They do a lot of energy work and healings. They do Reiki and guided meditations. I haven't been able to make it yet, but really talented lady.
I will have to go check that place
Mhm.
out. I don't think I've even been there.
I don't think I have either.
I live under a rock at times. Here I am doing a podcast, like, hey, listen to me.
Yeah.
So,
There's a place in Fargo. What?
Really?
is there anything that you'd like that? I've never been there, so.
Nothing of that place. I mean, the other New Age store I've ever known it was Tochi's, of course. That's been there for ages. That you could at least
More
get.
of holistic.
It's more holistic, but you could get. They almost have like every single type of herb there and incense.
Yeah.
The Toshi's is located, I believe, isn't it, right off of like 2nd Avenue North, just off
Yeah.
University?
Near University, near Maine. Yeah.
It's like 12th Street and 2nd Avenue, I believe.
I know, I go there quite often, but yeah,
Uh-huh.
they have every herb you could think of, and they're
Can't
definitely
miss it.
pagan friendly.
Look for the mural.
Yeah.
You cannot miss that store.
Oh yeah.
Phenomenal store. If you guys
Mhm.
have never been there who are listening, if you need whole herbs, they got it. If you're holistic person, want to eat healthy, whatever, they got everything you think of from teas and stuff. And again, that's Toshi's in Fargo, North Fargo there. Just Google it, because we kind of just threw that out there.
We've kind of begged the you ever gonna get a website? I said no. We've been here long enough. I think everyone knows where we are.
Oh yeah, they pretty much word of mouth works.
Word
for them.
of mouth works for them.
So I'm going to digress again here and say that just recently when we were doing a workshop with the Lake Agassiz Pagan community, we had a lady come and she has bought in JT's Rock Shop, and which is good news. I know everybody that knew JT is like super excited. The name is going to be Fargo Rocks, which I thought was that's catchy.
Nice ring to it.
And she told me that they're actually going to be open fairly soon, and I hope she doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but she was mentioning that they might actually do a spot in the store that would be like a working dedication to JT. So if anybody knows him or knew him and wants to come and leave an offering or something, she's probably going to have something like that in the store, and I think that's a phenomenal idea.
I think you would have loved that.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, again, JT's Rock Shop, soon to be Fargo Rocks. Go check it out again, because I knew JT was a very respected and well-known elder in the community. That's what I got on that. Too bad that'd be great if we could tune in to the other worlds and have him come there and interview with us. JT was quite the guy, so.
Yeah.
You remember JT, rock on!
Sorry, my wireless internet, my Ouija board, I can't mesh them together, unfortunately.
Let me work at home with my USB port.
Yeah.
I've got the Ouija.
Well, the last one I have, and I think everybody, they were just recently at the first annual Fargo Pagan Pride Day, which we will be discussing here next in one of our next little sessions of this podcast, but it's the 12 Houses,
Mm-hmm.
which is run and owned by a couple. Lisa is probably the most well-known proprietor because she does a lot of divinatory readings. But it's located up in Grand Forks. I don't know the address. I think their website is 12houses.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Double check that.
yeah, yeah, it is.
I've been there enough. I can tell you where it is.
Yeah. Turn
Yeah,
right
well.
at the big rock. That's usually how my directions go.
Look for the old Dakota Boys Ranch store,
That's right, yeah.
the paint store.
I mean, they're still working on
So anyways, well, Thomas is Googling or Yahooing this.
Yep.
Excuse me.
It's 12 houses are located at 216 2nd 3rd Street in Grand Forks.
South 3rd Street?
South 3rd Street, yes.
12 houses, they're located on Facebook. Stop on in, guys, if you haven't been there. 12 houses, they offer Reiki, many, many different kinds of divinatory readings. They have belly dance haflas that go on. Occasionally, Heather, my wonderful fiance, and me are up there doing henna tattoos, or she'll be doing palm reading. I mean, you just need to stop in and see what they got going on. They have all sorts of oodles of great things going on. And I guess I would say that it's probably best to label them as a new consciousness. I've heard them use that term quite a bit. New consciousness store, new age.
I would say that, yeah.
We have a correction here, I'm assuming, to the dress?
Yeah, apparently Yahoo has to work on updating their dresses a little bit. I'll have to contact them about that. It's actually 2017 Demers Avenue, if I got that pronounced correctly.
I believe so. Oh, and we got a phone number, so you might as well say that.
Yeah, 701-757-2025.
Great. And I mean, they have definitely a phenomenal selection of stones, herbs, incense,
all the way down to bumper stickers. I mean, when you enter my house now, there's an extra bumper sticker I bought up there when me and Cleo went up there, and that was which is parking only. All others will be toted.
Well, and I know they're definitely very, very welcoming people, very friendly.
Yep, and then what they also do is they have open rituals for their Beltane and Salmon rituals.
Oh, that's right. They do that with what is it? The Order of
their Coven. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. That's if you guys who are listening haven't been to 12 houses, stop by. They got something for you there. I'm sure if you're interested, even if you just have a few questions to ask. I have to say, Lisa does a phenomenal job with her divinatory readings. I actually got one from her when we were at Pagan Pride Day in Fargo, and I was, to say the least, very impressed with how well she did. So stop in and maybe see what she has to tell you.
I was impressed also when we had the panel and your husband were on there, and it was something that she said that although she's had some people that have been upset with her for being pagan, she's had just as equal number of people that have been prided her for it too.
Well, I know she and her husband are very adamant that they don't call themselves pagan anymore.
They don't, no.
But they started out as pagan and are indeed pagan friendly and influenced by that. But I think her husband's name, and forgive me, it's Ron, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Sorry, Ron, if that but it's I know that he uses the term new consciousness quite a bit, and so that's probably the best term to use in relation to their store. But if it's not, hey, get a hold of us, Lisa or Ron, and let us know because we'll correct it for you. Anything else, you guys?
That's all I could think of right off the bat.
So, as we were saying, obviously, any of you guys that hear this, if you'd like to be interviewed, or if you got Skype, you don't even have to come here to Castleton where we're recording this in our studio. But get a hold of us. Thomas, you said you're going to set up an email.
I will, yes. And we don't have the email address right that way, but I'm planning to have a site on paganspace.net for it, and that will have the email address there as well.
Sure. And I think we're actually going to be throwing this up on more sites as we go.
On Facebook and yeah.
So I mean, if you can't, just search the hell of the Great Northern Pagan Podcast. I'm sure you'll be able to find something.
Eventually, yeah.
If you don't know us personally, that's all I got on businesses. Again, if there's someone listening and you want us, and you know of a store that we did not mention, or you would like us to do a segment or something like that, get a hold of us and let us know.
Now we're going to talk about, and by the way, this is Thomas speaking here. But what happened a couple weeks ago, which was called Pagan Pride Day, which I thought was the greatest thing ever that happened. It couldn't win without a hitch.
I thought it went great. You should tell the listeners. Maybe we should go into talking about ourselves a little bit and say, who we are and what we're about, and then we can move on to the Pagan Pride Day.
Okay, that will work. That will work just fine. Well, for me, I'm Thomas Punton. My pagan name is LionLord. I never really had known about paganism or Wicca when I was growing up and was little. My first inkling about Wicca happened actually in my college days when I saw an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Robert Stack died too early, I swear.
It's a good show.
Yeah, it was a good show. Anyway, there was a show where this Wiccan from Salem, Massachusetts actually helped in solving this murder case. And I was like, witches, that's actually a religion? I thought it was just like for the fairy tales and all that. And so that's when I started going online and looking it up, and that's when I'd found about Wicca and all that. And I hadn't got a chance to really get fully studying it because there was nobody I knew nearby until these past few years when the meetup was started and we started getting to know each other. And that was when I started getting into it, when we also then ran a coven for a few years. It was called the Grove of the Old Ways. And
That was based right out of your home in Castleton.
right here in Castleton, yep. Yeah, the backyard was a celebration of 3 Beltanes.
Maple included.
Alcohol included, yes, that's right.
Oh, Maple.
Oh, Maple, yeah. But, I guess that's where the FMUU is, eventually, hopefully, forming that as cups will come to be, that it's kind of like the Phoenix rising, in a sense, from the ashes.
Absolutely. And how did you, the FMUU is now what you're involved in, kind of what your past led to now with the Farm Memorial Unitarian Universalist.
That's right, because it's tricky enough when we were running the Grove of the Old Ways, because we didn't have any sort of backbone. We were just kind of running ourselves and all that. We didn't have any sort of backup for it. And with the UU, they've been kind of there for us, kind of to help with us and all that. So in a sense, it's kind of the same, but then it's different because now we got the Unitarian Universalist Church helping us out along the way.
Well, I would agree. If you got I would say that one of the hard parts being way up here in the Great White North is that there isn't a lot of teachers or established groups. So really, a lot of people need to kind of go out on their own and brave it. I mean, I definitely have seen and heard that. I know there are teachers out there, but I mean, they're not readily available, I guess would be the word.
Exactly.
So, since we're talking about the FMUU and you're mentioning cups is what's going eventually the FMUU will turn into. And what's that stand for again?
The Covenant of the Unitarian Universalist Pagans.
Okay.
It's basically just, kind of think of, I would say to it, like the Unitarian Universalist is like the UN of religion. Because it is.
No, that's actually really, really appropriate.
Because it's like you got all the different religions, and cups is like the country of paganism. It's the chapter of the pagans in the church.
Absolutely. And I think I do agree with you, Cleo, because that is a good way to put it. That's very creative. They spend their money better than the UN, though, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Well, that's arguments, too.
Oh, that's great. So how long will it be before we can see the cups? Until when you guys become the cups?
We hope within less than next year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's a process.
It's a process. I mean, they wanted to see us, have a few more members to get going, and we're pretty much in the process of getting that hurdle crossed.
Mm-hmm.
It requires a sponsorship by the local church, and so for us to be sponsored by the local group, obviously they're going to want to get to know us, see what we're about, see how we act,
Sure.
So that we're a positive part of their religious community. So it's a process, but it's something that hopefully will be coming soon. We've really gotten close. I consider myself a Unitarian Universalist pagan now.
Mm-hmm.
At first I thought maybe I wouldn't, and then I went, and wow.
That's a good thing to add.
Great.
I'm glad. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that's a good thing to add because, our listeners who may be interested, maybe they're dealing with kind of, say, I've heard about this cups, and I don't know if I would consider myself that, and why don't, rather than me saying this, why don't we jump in and you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and maybe, if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Okay.
My name is Cleo Wardwell. Magical name is Snelsia Shadow Weaver. I have been a practicing pagan for 15, 16 years now. Like Thomas, I was more introduced my first year of college. Somehow I was involved in Trowood Performing Arts School, and somehow a lot of my friends ended up pagan and Wiccan, and I was agnostic at the time, and I just wanted to learn more about them. So I borrowed books, and I started reading, and it was one of those aha moments when all those things that you believed your whole life and didn't have a name for, suddenly you're like, there's a religion for that?
Yeah, that's exactly what like I was. I never, until 1997, I didn't know it just even remotely existed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was back for me. It was back in 2006 where I came out, as they say, came out of the broom closet.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I can relate to that because, and I guess in my experience, you hear, as you guys probably hear, a lot of pagans say it was like coming home.
Yeah.
And I think, when I look back at it, it surprised me that there was a religion for something like that, or I like the term spirituality more myself, but is because, in high school you're going through these mythologies and they're talking to you about it. So you have this thought in your head that it's like something that was, and it's fun, but it really doesn't exist now.
Yeah, it's ancient history.
Exactly.
And I think it's a great experience when, us, who obviously the three of us connect with that on some level. We're like, whoa, phenomenal, get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
For me, I know it was something, I guess, I had an instinct towards from when I was very young. One of my fellow FMUU pagans talks about it as well. We both grew up Catholic. And so we just, something didn't jive there.
Mm-hmm.
And we both had the instinct that we have a father but no mother. That doesn't make sense. It just wouldn't fit. And for plenty of people, that's fine, and that's great. But for me, even very young, I asked the priests questions that they couldn't answer to my satisfaction. And I was a little too smart and too analytical for my own good. But once I started reading, in 97, I started studying with a teacher. I did a year and a day of intensive study, classes every week. 13 Moons had tests, a final, the whole 9 yards. Was initiated. Then I kind of bounced around from group to group. I've helped run more than one coven. After attending, for those listening that have been in the community a long time, I attended Pagan Hands across the Red River, and we were protested, and I had someone in my face, and my stepchildren were there, and he was telling them they were going to hell. And it was, and they have every right to counter protest. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with telling children they're going to hell.
Yeah.
And, it gets very heated, and we were on a bridge with cars. It's not like they stopped traffic. So people are running back and forth across, and it could have been really bad. And a lot of people were very worried when it happened. But after that, it kind of sparked something in me to start the Red River Pagan Alliance, which is now no longer, but I've been working in groups since that have the same bent, the same meetup, the Lake Agassiz Pagan Community, the FMUU Pagans, a couple other groups throughout time have really had that same thing that I saw, that even this podcast is going to be someplace where you can hear about events, stores. When you're new to the area, it was kind of a place you could come and find on the internet. If you're new in college in Fargo, which is a big college town, there's a way you can meet other pagans
Mhm.
in the town and maybe find open circles to work in and whatnot.
So is it fair? Yeah, is it fair then to say that kind of your experience in the past is what has led you then to being active within the FMU Pagans? Then?
Definitely. I never stopped wanting that and being involved because I feel it's important to me that I be part of it.
You should.
I have met several young pagans or people who are curious about it, and sometimes the lack of actual human beings
Yeah.
it is a real detriment. And if you just go and buy books, well, a lot of them are great, but there's a couple out there that aren't going to be the best.
Well, a couple, I would say.
Oh,
Quite a
yeah.
few.
Well, I'm trying to be more
I
diplomatic.
get what you're saying.
If-
Yeah.
Right next to, the good pagan book is the Love Spells for Beginners. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
A lot of fluff is.
a lot of fluff and possibly not so good stuff. I mean, it's like,
Or like make money through
or
spells
watching
or
movies,
something like that.
yeah. Or if you watch movies, you're gonna have a mix.
And I think that's where this podcast is also going to help. Also, is to take care of all the myths and misunderstandings.
Oh, absolutely. Be a positive voice, and I think I can't agree with you guys more on that because part of the issue of not only being a minority spirituality is the fact that most of our negativity, like you said, you were being protested at that past event, is it's just simply ignorance. People aren't aware of what it is. We're casted as devil worshippers when that has nothing to do with pretty much any pagan cosmology, or cosmogony, excuse me, not makeup. Cosmology, my bad.
No, that's cosmetology. Cosmology is closer.
Yeah. Do you think though, compared to the pagan hands across the Red River then compared to now, do you think times have changed?
Greatly.
Yeah.
What I really like, getting back for a moment to Pagan Pride, is it was a multi-group effort.
Yes.
Many groups attended Pagan Hands, but it was one group that did all the work, did all the organizing. It was their event, and then other people attended, and that was great. But seeing 2-3 groups get together and really make Pagan Pride Day come to fruition and having such positive coverage and a really positive everything. I mean, it's like you said, it could not have gone better. People say, well, it was small and but that's the first event. If you don't start small, you're gonna yeah. Exactly. You're not going to make this big giant event right away. That would be catastrophe, I think. I think it was great. The UU was great in letting us use their facilities. They had a special service that one of our members did the sermon.
If I may, I think we're digressing a little bit. One last question before we'll move on a little bit here. How do our listeners who may be interested in the cups, is it something that's open to anybody? Or is it invite only, or what's up with it?
It's open to anybody. I would strongly suggest taking a little bit of research into the UU at least. But it is open to anybody.
So if someone wanted to join or just, find out if they wanted to join, what would be their next step then?
They could either go onto the internet, I'm not so sure, but I think if you look up Fargo Unitarian Universalist Church, you can find it there. Okay. Their church is located off of Main Avenue. They're right next to the Cass County Courthouse, just to the north of there.
So the cups, or what the FMU will become, the cups is Unitarian Universalist, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a subsection of the Unitarian Universalist?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's Unitarian Buddhist, Unitarian Hindu, Unitarian Jews, Unitarian Christians,
So
Unitarian
sure birth of
atheists.
religion.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not focused on anyone's spirituality. That's what I really liked about it, is that to become UU, I didn't have to change my beliefs, my practices.
Yeah.
it was something that I could fit into theirs.
So it
and
would be
still be me.
very comfortable for someone who may be very eclectic. Then. Great.
Extremely.
Let me put it this way. I mean, I remember back in January, they had a speaker there that was atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
And
good.
she, so, I mean, that's like, I think that's the only kind of church that would ever,
You don't
Yeah.
even have to believe in God.
You know,
Come on in.
Yeah. And I mean, and everyone has just been so welcome and honest and give their own opinion, what they feel, how you're doing, and all that. They're so open.
Is there? I'm gonna jump over here
Okay.
myself. Sorry to take control,
No.
but
That's like
just so we're not boring you guys listening to the podcast. Again, my name is Grant Ridgeway. I like to use my spiritual name is Sunweaver. Like you've heard me throwing around, we've thrown around the term Lake Agassiz Pagan Community. The Lake Agassiz Pagan Community you can find by going to www.meetup.com. And really, long story short, without getting into the history of it, it was a smaller group before that kind of blossomed into what the Lake Agassiz Pagan Community is now. Basically, it's I guess I would describe it as a sounding board. It's more of like a broad community, very eclectic.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what tradition you practice, even if you're not pagan, as long as you're pagan friendly and open minded.
Mm-hmm.
The main goal, I would say, saying that I was a co-organizer along with my fiance Heather, is it's just a place where we have any kind of event going on where pagans can get together and have friendship and acceptance and knowledge. Some of the things that I guess we do would be drumming circles. We have discussions and some classes. We have, social events. I could go on and on. The best thing to do if you're interested in the Lake Agassiz Pagan Community, because it's not a coven. It's not anything that you have to belong and believe in a certain way. It's just the broad community to come and, rub elbows with, other pagans in the community. And it doesn't matter. It's based out of Fargo. But hence the name, I think last Samhain is when it kind of finally hit home for me, when we had an open Samhain ritual and we had like 40 people show up. And we had like 25% of the people that showed up weren't even from the Fargo-Moorhead area. They were from Grand Forks or Jamestown or Park Rapids. Mm-hmm. And so it was kind of, I think, exclamation point that, okay, we can't just have a group that represents Fargo, even though that's the base of it. We have to remember the little people. Because, let's face it, right now, you think of Pagan, how am I going to say it wrong? Paganistan down in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I think Stephen Posh coined that term because it's one of the big epicenters of paganism. And
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
we're kind of like I was joking with Heather the other day and saying we're like the Gaza Strip of Paganistan, but we need to get our own country. We need to blow it up, and so, a little bit about myself, I guess, is I'm originally from Hibbing, Minnesota, what would be known as the Iron Range. I've lived out here in Fargo, North Dakota for about 3 years. My pagan practice is very hard for me to describe. I've been doing it for, probably seriously a little over 7 years now. I got into it in a very similar way as Cleo. I was raised non-denominational Christian, and of course I had questions eventually that couldn't be answered, or answered to my liking, which led to me, looking into alternate spiritualities, and kind of the same thing. I found paganism, Wicca which I think is most people's introduction, because it is the biggest of the pagan traditions. Is, I was like, oh my gosh, there's something out there the way that I feel. But since it's changed, I've been apprenticed in both core shamanism and druidry. Do I practice those solely? No. I've tried. The best way that I'd say for me is that I think that I'm into something that I really want to do for a specific tradition, and I find something else. So I guess I would term what I've used before as pagan mysticism. If you want an explanation, email me, because it would be like a freaking podcast in itself. It's something personal, I guess. That's me. That's the LAPC. You guys think I covered anything? Or?
I think you covered it. It's kind of ironic because I think it was about exactly a year ago when I first came to that first one that you guys did it in the.
Oh, the open solemn one?
Yeah, no, it's not the open solemn one. You did one in the park in Moorhead. I think it was like a little class about gods, or the gods and goddesses, I think it was.
Okay. I know, I'm trying to think. About a year ago, that would have been, we did one on the elements.
Or maybe it was the elements. Something
either
like
way.
Yeah.
One addendum to the Cups the Will Be Cups chapter in Fargo. To be a member of the Cups chapter, you will not have to join the UU.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
right.
not a requirement. That's kind of something that's very important to us. That it's not like you have to convert and join the church.
Yeah.
Sure.
You can just do the Cups events and everything else. There just needs to be, like, I think, 3 actual members of the church, and the rest don't have to be. I think is the only requirement.
I think they said 3 main, and then they just required 5 as like the base.
And
Well, that's a
that's
good
it
thing to
for,
have.
and we've already got that.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Great. Well, unless you guys have anything more to add, Thomas, we're going to go to a little bit of an intermission here, right?
I think we shall, yeah.
Okay. So we got some music for you by Damh the Bard called Cauldron Board. Enjoy.
Sunset, moonrise, and see how the land is bathed in silver hue. You feel so lonely. Come with me and let me show there are others just like you, who feel the powers of earth, sea and sky, of dragon and fairy and shades of the night. Hear the call of our ancestors of blood and bone, of womb and tomb and standing stone. Lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Pendderwen call. See the man alone on a hill, his arms raised high to the moon, chanting words, a charm, a spell of power, a witch's rule. He calls to the powers of earth, sea and sky, of dragon and fairy and shades of the night. He calls to his ancestors of blood and bone, of womb and tomb and standing stone. Lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Pendderwen call. Come and taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Pendderwen's children, the cauldron born. A charm of silver, the gypsy said when he was just 17. Your future I'll tell you, every thread and turn, if they're to be seen. She took his hands, tracing the lines, searching for patterns and looking for signs. Your life a construction, one day you will see. taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Cerridwen's children, the cauldron born. So we stand on this hill, our shadows are cast by the moon, chanting words, our charm, our spell of power, our witch's rune. We call to the powers of earth, sea and sky, of dragon and fairy and shades of the night. We call to our ancestors of blood and bone, of womb and tomb and standing stone. Lady, stir your cauldron bell, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Cerridwen call. Come and taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Cerridwen's children, the cauldron born. Oh, lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Cerridwen call. Come and taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Cerridwen's children, the cauldron born. Cauldron born, cauldron born, with a cauldron born, cauldron born, with a cauldron born.
That was Cauldron Born by Damh the Bard. Big fan of him. So we're now having our second part of our podcast where we're going to talk about the first annual Pagan Pride Day, Fargo Pagan Pride Day, that took place August 7th, correct?
That's right.
I thought it was phenomenal. I know there's plenty we could say about it, but hey, what do you know?
I after all the months and weeks of tinkering, revising, the conflicts we had, it just, and all we get invested in, it's amazing.
Well, and I think we should too take a second here. Who were the ones behind the scenes that did all the legwork here? Because I think they deserve definitely some recognition.
The biggest heads of it was Joyzide and your dear fiance Heather Garrett were the big ones behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And then myself Thomas, and then Jamie, we were the ones that helped back that up.
I was more just a secondary.
Yeah. Hey, you're the one that was in charge of the rituals, so you got kudos to that.
So those are the people, and I like I said, I think it's deserved because you guys certainly. I mean, I wrote the ritual, but it was here to write this, bring it, but for the legwork and putting up with all the crap, the insurance, the having to deal with the park, having to get this thing to come together, you guys certainly had your share of work to do for that.
Yeah, and we also had to hold our breath because although you might not have seen it in the newscast or in the pictures, but not too far away, half of that park was still flooded.
Yeah, definitely. It That should have been Island Park. No, I know.
Yeah.
Fit better.
Not to confuse the actual island park, but yeah, it
was almost an island.
At least the convenience was the fact that when we were giving respects to the bread and water from the ritual, we didn't have to go that far.
This is true. But you know what's interesting about that, and maybe we're extrapolating here, but the river did go down like 4 or 5 feet within, I could be wrong, but it did go majorly down within a week or two of that.
Oh, really?
So maybe we made Angry River happier.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll back off.
We gave its blessing, yes.
Yeah, like you mentioned, we ended up on the news. News Channel 6, I believe, showed up.
WDOY, yes.
Yep, and we got right on the 10 o'clock news first story.
Right in the very start. I mean, I was thinking we were going to just be like, we're after the sports right at the very end. No, top of the news, we got our 2 minutes of fame.
Boys.
I thought the newscaster, I can't remember what his name was, but he did a remarkable job kind of giving the good idea of what it was like.
Well, and it was interesting because, that's what I was thinking too, and I remember I got home after getting Pride Day, the long day, and I'm taking a nap because I work midnights, and my phone's just going nuts, and it's Joy calling me. I answer it, and she's just like, "Oh my God, we were the first one," and I mean, that was it was a good feeling, but I'm sure at the time she probably didn't think I was as ecstatic, but I was half asleep, so. But that was great. It's on YouTube, right? You put it on YouTube.
If you go and look up Pagan Pride 2011 Fargo, that'll probably the first link you'll see.
Yeah, I think My Ugly Mug is the...
is the icon for it, yes.
Yeah. Look at that bearded fool, Yeah, and I thought the news story especially, what positivity. I mean, I thought they really spun it in a way that I was surprised. I thought it was going to at the very least be maybe gray. Here's these guys in the park, and here it was, no, it was Pagan Pride Day, and it's great. And
they could have almost won an award for that 2 minutes. They did it, but it was well enough worth it.
So, the turnout, I was surprised with.
I was too. I mean, there's numerous people I never recognized. I know there was the biggest one I remember was this one gentleman who talked to me in Joy. He was from the Red River Freethinkers Club.
Yeah.
That he was very interested about it. Well, after he went looking around, I can't remember what his name from the UU, he shows up and he says, yeah, that guy actually happened to be a former mayor of Fargo. And me and Joy looked like, oh!
Yeah, it was Joe.
He showed up?
He showed up, yes.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and he actually did a written article about it too. There's a little bit he made note about there. That a lot of people were wearing purple that day.
Yeah, he does a blog on Area Voices.
Really?
And I was looking to see if there was anything in the forum about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran across his blog, and he's like, "Today I met pagans."
We should maybe put. I didn't even know that. We should throw a link up.
I'll post a link on that too underneath the blog as well, so people can see that article as well.
I'll make a note here so you remember the case.
It's kind of like it was just something that was more than meets the eye with that guy that was like. And I remember I mentioned this to Joy that it would have been so ironic if he was mayor of Fargo like 10 years ago or so. I mean, I don't know when he was mayor of Fargo, but
like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No, what's the significance of that? Because remember, you're talking to an old Iron Ranger here. So.
Well, because of the fact that with all that was going on with what Cleo was doing with the Pagan Hands across the mayor, if he was, mayor at that time, and now he sees what's, come about, 10 years later.
Way to definitely make it look way more positive and what, we're truly about.
I mean,
certainly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the irony is just, can't express into words, really.
I think the biggest thing that I was surprised with, and it was funny because, I had so much going on that weekend. I had a wedding that I had to do, and, we have me and my fiance's wedding, getting ready, and I was so busy that I didn't even think of, how many people do I think may show up? And I remember I got there and I showed up and I could hear drumming and I look around and I'm like, wow! And it finally dawns on me that, holy cow, this whole time I hadn't thought of how many people have come. And it was I would say it's fair to say at its height we had at least 100 people.
Around that. Especially when we did the ritual and we had a big circle. And not to mention, the people that couldn't stand that were still there behind us even.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that ritual had a lot of energy.
Oh gosh, and I have to say too, when I wrote the ritual, I was finishing it up, and I was like, oh, we got to put in something here. You know, I am pagan and I am proud. Damn, did it feel good to say that.
Yes.
I mean, because like you said, you know, you mentioned with coming out of the broom closet and that people, you know, they get kind of sheepish and stuff, but to be able to actually yell that out loud in a public place of all places is almost like a liberating feeling. I don't know if I'm...
It gets that weight off your chest that you can now be proud for who you are.
Mm-hmm. Especially with us, you know, especially paganism being such a minority, you know, spirituality as it is, it definitely, we need stuff like this to help, you know, prosper a positive image and help paganism grow as a positive thing.
Well, when Joy called me after the newscast showed up, all I said to her is, Joy, we are officially on the map.
Yeah, there's no going back now.
No going back now.
Yeah, there's people already I've heard talking about, I know I didn't make it this year, but I'm going to make it next year. Which means already it's got to be the first annual Pagan Pride for Fargo, as opposed to we did one once.
I just wonder when that newscast happened and how many people that were watching did like a spit take and just like what?
Well, and I know when the newscast, you know, Joy comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, can you talk to this guy?" And you know, I love to talk, and that was the first time I think I can go like, okay. And I mean, I'm sitting there, and as soon as he asked me, "Could you spell your name for me?" I was like, "Oh shit, here we go. No going back now." You know.
I want a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas.
My name is. But you know, I with the newscast itself, I just thought the whole event, you know, the definite energy, the feeling of it there. There was no arguing. There was no negativity. It did not matter. Everybody came together in a very positive, large community, I would say. It was impressive.
It's like as if we all clean slated. Everything that was with us with the past, gone. It was like we started anew. And it's like, if you think of it like as if this was a novel and this was like the first chapter.
Absolutely. And I think Cleo made a good point. Like, people are already talking about it. I mean, the first Pagan Friday was good. Imagine what the second's going to be. And you know, I have to say too, like, Joy talked to me and she wanted me to contact the Fargo PD to let them know about it. And you know, I wasn't too concerned because I already felt like, you know, yeah, we may have some protesters and stuff, but you know, this isn't a huge thing yet. It really hasn't, you know, it hasn't had news exposure and all the things that did happen with it when it happened, but that hadn't happened yet. But I have to say that I paid close attention to see if I saw the Fargo PD, and it was a very good response. I called, left a message, and I think within noon and 3, no, that would be wrong, 2:30 and 5, gosh, where the hell am I? I saw the Fargo PD come by back in that area at least 3 times.
Actually, as a matter of fact, when I was driving in after I had to pick up a couple things after locking up with the UU, actually, I almost had a police escort. The police car was right behind me, so.
Well, and I think to me, you know, others may say, well, they were just driving by, but to get back in that area, you have to on purpose drive back in that area because it's so flooded.
Oh, yes.
So it was good to see that, you know, I mean, I think it's a testament to the fact that we live in a time now that is far more open-minded and has the ability to realize, like, hey, I may not agree with this, but let's agree to disagree and, you know, support one another. But
you know, and it might differ, you know, different types of parts of the world and the country. I mean, you know, I know that there's a lot of news stories that have been happening over in Africa that's been happening where there's been... Nigeria especially. I mean, that can go for another discussion, but I think...
True.
But I think around here, I think people are getting more... I think into the country as a whole is starting to get an understanding. And I especially saw with that article that Crystal had posted about the fact that now, like, more schools are allowing, students to get...
It was Vanderbilt in Tennessee, I
think,
now has Wiccan holidays.
Oh, yeah.
As part of the school calendar now, which is just phenomenal.
Great.
Well, I remember when we were doing the Pagan caroling, and Crystal said that for Aiden, Connor, and Ayla, that they were going to get the Yule Day off at school, and I thought that's amazing. It's like you would have seen that maybe even 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah, Pagan caroling, on that note, we're going to do that again. LAPC,
Yeah.
We went out and gosh, I think that was like one of the coldest nights of winter too.
Yes, it was.
Hopefully we barely were able to survive an hour out there, and I was so welcome to have that cocoa. Oh my gosh.
Well, I think it was funny because I remember, if you listening have never seen a picture of me, I have a big beard. And I think when we came back in, my beard was solid.
It was so solid. It was almost like as if Grant stuck his head in the freezer for an hour.
But it was good though. Anyways, I'm digressing.
But no, it felt so wonderful to have seen Yule-like pagan caroling.
Mm-hmm. And again, it was the first one. It can only go up from here.
Well, from here, yeah.
I think one of the things too that I wanted to add about the Pagan Pride Day is just the fact, like I know me and you stood there near the end when everybody's dwindling, and we're just standing there looking at this big banner sitting there that says Pagan Pride Day, and we were just kind of in a stupor. We just kind of didn't know what to say. We were just kind of had this stupid grins on our faces, and we're just like,
we dreamed for this day. We never thought this day would finally come, and it did. Because for me, like I told you, Rand, that I had dreamed that that everyone in the Fargo area would work together on something major, and we did.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've said this to a few people, and I kind of want your guys' opinion on it. Is I've felt for about 6 months before the Pagan Pride Day that to me it just felt like something was culminating in a positive way. Like it was almost like the roof, the roof had been taken off the building, the air had been cleared out, and it was almost like we could start breathing again, and there was just this energy. I mean, did you guys have any sense of something like that, or is that just me?
I saw that too. It's just that we were all on equal playing field.
Personally, I've been feeling it definitely for a while, because I've spent so long in this community.
Mm-hmm.
I know the old animosities and a lot of the things that happened a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was truly much more factioned. Like I said, you never would have seen this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And seeing groups that work together and stand on equal footing and aren't trying to say, well, our group gets to our name first.
Yeah.
And then you, and then,
Mm-hmm.
it was done completely as a coalition.
Sure.
And that was truly amazing to me.
Well, and I agree with you. I mean, like, as I mentioned, I'm a newcomer really to the area, and I heard all about it, but, and I think at times
horror stories.
I might have
literally.
gotten kind of like the stink eye from people because I'm a very outgoing person, and I would hear that, and I would mention like Pagan Pride Day, and they would get kind of this, and I would just go on out loud and go, well, I'm stupid. I just moved here. I don't know any better. We're going to do it anyways. And, and I think, I mean, you could say it, I look back at it and go, man, maybe it was a little bit insensitive of me. But at the same time, I think this is just proof of the fact of a few people that turned into a lot of people just saying, you know what, let bygones be bygones. We're going to move forward into a positive future. And
exactly.
I mean, you can argue with that all you want, but the fact that we're doing this podcast, the fact that Fargo Pagan Pride Day went so well, the fact that you individuals are doing the cups, the LAPC has, gosh, I just checked the other day, I think we have 92 members. It's blown up. And to me, it's like, how can you argue with that? I mean, to us, it's a huge thing. I mean, in the greater scheme of things, it's rather small. But let's put it into proper context, you know what I mean, in terms of where does it matter. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just great because...
And it didn't really matter, what study of paganism you were at, what level of education you were, if you were just a rookie at it or you're a wise crone of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was everyone still was together.
Well, and I think that isn't something new. I mean, when I've gotten into arguments with people before, if we look at even like, let's just say the Germanic and the Scandinavians, you could have a country that's now Norway, and there's 16 villages in it, and all of them practice it a different way.
Yeah.
The only thing that might be the same between that southern village and the northern village are the names, but it might be completely different. And I think that's just a testament to the fact that let's stop splitting hairs here.
Well,
Exactly.
and it was like that in ancient Egypt too.
Yeah.
Each area had their own kind of patron god.
Mm-hmm.
northern or, upper and lower Egypt were very divided.
Mhm.
And it's still, they practice the same religion, but
Mhm.
that's kind of how you ended up with something like 300 plus gods
Yeah.
within the Egyptian religion.
Mhm.
And some of them were actually composite, where they started blending them together.
I think you
and
see
yeah,
that a lot in a
and you
lot
get-
of pagan cultures.
Yeah,
Well,
it is a little more free. It's not
Mhm.
as regimented
Well,
and
And same thing goes with Scotland with the different clans that were
Yeah.
going on back in the
Mhm.
day. That they all were there for Scotland, but each of them had their own rituals of,
Mhm.
doing their ways of thinking and how the way they work their lives.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's a testament to that humankind. I've always felt is polytheistic minded. We're individuals. If we, and I mean, sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox a little bit here, but is that my argument for that is like if we were monotheistic minded, we'd have one religion and everybody would be okay with that. But again, that's just my way of describing it, But I think that's a perfect example of the fact that you can have individuals thinking in a different way. And I've heard, I can mention this, in Fargo there's the Center for Interfaith Projects, which they have a little altar and everything, even for paganism. And their little mission statement is one tree, many branches.
Exactly.
And I think that's a perfect way to put it. We're all kind of doing the same thing. I don't say in terms of that we're all worshiping the same divinity or anything in different names, but that we're all looking for spiritual growth and spiritual satisfaction. We're just doing it different ways.
Exactly.
Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. So thank you.
That was Grant's soapbox moment.
Soapboxing.
But no, it's actually a really good description.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good way of putting it. Even within Wicca, you have several different traditions. It's not like Wicca is,
Mm-hmm.
one thing. Like Catholicism is one thing. It's
Yeah.
not.
Eh.
It's got so many different variations within itself, and what I like is the people who are really into the original Gardnerian, very regimented,
Yeah.
are really accepting of the eclectics. Who kind of go, well, I like this, but I don't like that, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay.
And that's what I always have liked about Wicca and paganism was that, so long as you kept to the main structure of it, there was no really
Basic
wrong way.
structure.
There was no wrong way of doing it. And you could always improvise and change things around to fit the situation.
Well, I think under the pagan umbrella, there's been many questions that I think probably all three of us can say we've had is, okay, fine, there's all these traditions and all that stuff, but what makes paganism? And I've always described it as that if you want to strip everything away, it's that there's a focus on the earth and the cycles of the earth, and then taking that usually and going as to what does that represent further. I mean, I think really distilled to a very simple explanation, that's what denotes paganism.
Exactly.
Because I mean,
yeah, the earth-centered religion.
Gosh, that was kind of an intense talk. That was kind of
I felt the mood there perfectly.
What else should we add? Is there anything else that we wanted to? Do we either any of us want to say about the Pagan Pride Day other than it was a great success?
It's a great success. That could only be said of it, and pretty much if anyone else thinks it was a bad thing, I think that they just missed out on the great celebration ever.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Well, you're always gonna have your naysayers.
Yeah.
But I think to me, like, and I mentioned this to you too when we were staring at that banner, kind of in a stupor there, is that we're gonna have to, the broad pagan community, we're always gonna have some things we have to weather. But I think the important thing is to take it with a grain of salt and just move on. Just be positive with it and continue doing what you're doing, because obviously we don't want to go back to what I've heard of and you guys have experienced of where a pagan community can go. And I don't think Fargo is anything special. I'm sure in the truth of it, you've heard and seen that so much in other communities in the United States alone. And
it's no exception to any belief. No, this is paganism.
That's true.
yeah, perfect. Good example. Good
When
point,
my dad was young, if you're familiar with Fargo, you have St. Mary's Cathedral on one side of Broadway, and then on the other side you have First Lutheran. And when my dad was in school in the 50s, if you walked on the Lutheran side of the street, you were supposed to go to confession. And I tell people that and they laugh and they're like, oh, that's funny. I'm like, no, seriously.
Forgive me, Father,
You walked on
I
the wrong
crossed the
side.
street.
Well, because you had a choice and you chose the Protestants.
That's a lot like Northern Ireland. Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, and
Of course, we don't have the IRA around the streets, but.
Well, and just like Scotland, when Rome built that wall.
Well, well, that's because they couldn't, conquer.
A thing where you mentioned that wall, I know this is a side note, but Emerald Rose does a song that I just love called "Song of the Picks," and it's about Hadrian's Wall. So if you guys are listening, you've never heard that, please YouTube it and listen to the lyrics. It's a great song.
If nothing else, just listen to Emerald Rose.
Yeah, period.
Period.
Arthur Hines all the way. Yeah, that's all I got. I can't really think of anything else, so.
I think we've covered a good portion of that. And here is to a good next year.
Woohoo! Yeah, for sure.
This time we can get started with the work earlier, and
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think we started we did it in like 4 months.
Yeah.
4 months.
You guys did it in 4 months.
Well, I didn't even personally. I was on a leave of absence at the time, so
yeah, it was like
they did all the work.
Yeah, it was 3 and 4 months in planning of it. Yes.
Well, and now, there's all the extra time.
Well, I think next year for sure, especially with this podcast, we should do a podcast there.
Yeah.
While Pagan Friday is going
happening,
on,
yes.
and that will be the Pagan Friday edition of the podcast.
And
exactly.
Interviews and
Absolutely. Moving then, since we're done, done with that, our next episode of this is going to be in October, and obviously we all know what comes in October. Samhain.
Yes.
Or All Hallows, or whatever your tradition uses for that. But I think it's, like we said, fair to say that most pagans, that's one of their favorite holidays, if not probably the favorite. But I just love the time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And so our next episode, excuse me, next time on is we're gonna probably try to do a focus on some things like ghost hunting we mentioned, ancestors and ancestor worship. What else were we kind of kicking around?
And then basically where a lot of the parts of Hallows Eve originated.
Yeah, and Halloween.
So if anybody's listening, if you happen to be part of a ghost hunting group, we already know a few, or if you have some cool experiences that you'd like to share, please email us when Thomas gets that up. And if you would like to come for an interview or be featured in one of our podcasts in the future here, please get a hold of us. We'd love to have you. We don't care if you run a business. We don't care if you're a college student and you've just been doing it. Let us know, because we want to hear the voices of the great, Lake Agassiz Basin, or the great northern area. And I would definitely like to, and I hope you may hear this at some time, but Stephen Posh down at Pagan in Minneapolis, St. Paul, I'm gunning for you, man. We're going to have you for an interview at some time.
He's got a target on you. Yeah. You better make a run for it here.
I got a metaphysical target on you, so I hope we can get him sometime, especially to hear his point, because, Minneapolis, St. Paul, they kind of just exploded at one point in time, and so that'd be great if we can bring that to Fargo-Moorhead.
Let me put it this
the greater area, excuse me.
Well, let me put it this way: the Cubs chapter down there has their own building.
Perfect. We're the next.
We are.
So yes, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think that should wrap it up here. This has been Thomas Punton,
Grand Ridgeway.
Cleo Wardwell.
And we hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Please enjoy some music by Loreena Mckinnett. We'll see you next time.
Take care.